What's up people, I hope you're all doing well, and in this week's video I'm going to cover a few different tips and tricks that you guys can use to make sure that your gigs start ranking much higher and actually start landing on the first page of the Fiverr search results within your service niche, and this can be done all within a matter of days. Now before I jump into it, I just want to quickly mention that it has actually been proven from websites such as Fiverr, Amazon and other online marketplaces that customers actually rarely make it past the first page. So 9 times out of 10 the customers will actually just settle and choose from the listed products or services from that first page. And basically what I'm trying to say is it's extremely crucial for your gig to be landed on that first page, otherwise you might not actually stand much chance at all at getting many orders. So if you are trying to step up your game on Fiverr and start to make some serious income from your gigs, I would highly advise that you stick around and watch this video and take note of all the tips that I'm about to tell you and actually apply them to your gigs. This video may be a long one, but I promise you I'm going to cover everything in the most detail that I possibly can. So get comfortable, grab a pen and paper, open up a Word document and just take down as many notes as you possibly can. So with that, let's get into it. Okay, so first up we have keywords. Now I'm not just talking about the obvious keywords associated to your gig and your niche, because I guarantee you there are so many more keywords out there that can actually help Fiverr boost your service and reach more of the type of buyers that are looking for your service. Basically, when a buyer comes along to Fiverr and searches for their desired service, Fiverr then uses a keyword algorithm to find the closest match to those keywords by scanning all the gigs within that niche, and then tailors that first page list to the buyer based on the amount of hits that came from those keywords. Now of course, if you can include as many keywords as possible into your title, your description and your tags, then there's a much higher chance that you will rank somewhere on that first page for the buyer to choose from. So let me show you an example of this and how you can go about sourcing these major keywords and incorporate them into your gigs and basically have the Fiverr search engine actually work in your favor. Here I've just searched up logo designs, and of course this search term is very broad, but if we actually look up top here, Fiverr provides us with some better and alternative search terms which we can actually use to our advantage. So here we can actually go ahead and take some of these suggested keywords and actually apply them to our gigs. This way later on the Fiverr search engine will actually find more hits on our gigs and should actually hopefully boost our gig in the rankings. The other thing that we can do to see which word Fiverr picks out the most based on the gigs shown to us on this first page is to actually use the browser search tool and scan different words that are listed on this page and see which one actually comes back with the most amount of hits. So if we try a few of the obvious ones here, we can then find the most popular keyword and make sure that we apply it to our gig title and our descriptions. So what I'll do here is use business for an example, and here we've got about 28 hits. If I then use minimal, which is another big keyword, we get 20 hits. Let's use professional, and I can't spell it, professional. Then we only get about 10 hits. So obviously there we know that business is a very big and popular keyword, so we'll need to make sure we use this in our title and our descriptions. Now once you have noted and found as many keywords as possible, what you want to do is go ahead and sprinkle them across your gig, and what I mean by this is include it into your title, your description and of course your tags. For your title, I would advise that you have at least 3 major keywords within it, but make sure that your title makes sense for a buyer to read and actually understand what it is that you offer. For your description, I would advise that you try to fit in as many keywords as possible, but without crowding it and making it hard for the buyer to read and actually understand what your service is. And lastly, for your tags, but unfortunately you can only pick out 5 different keywords to use as your tags, so what you need to do is pick out the top 5 keywords that you know has the most relevance to your gig, but also is very likely to get searched for, so you really do need to find the balance there. So what I'm going to do is run through exactly what I would do in this example and how I would go about extracting all the keywords and finding a variety of them and actually apply them to a logo design gig. This way you guys can see a real example of how you can go about extracting this information and actually go ahead and apply it to your gig. able to keep up with that time lapse, and we're able to see an example of how I would personally extract these keywords from Fiverr. But anyway, on to the next one. We have thumbnail and gig images. Most importantly, for the purpose of this video, we're going to be talking about the thumbnail, which is the first image shown on your gig. Now, changing your thumbnail won't directly boost your gig in the rankings, but what it can do is engage more buyers and actually encourage a better click-through rate, which in turn will tell the Fiverr algorithm that more people are interested in your gig, and this way it will then boost your gig in the rankings and actually hopefully land your gig on that first page. Now, the best research you could possibly do for this is to see what other successful gigs in your service niche and area are actually displaying and what sort of style they are using. And by no means am I telling you to copy them, but what I am saying is you can use their gig thumbnails as a sense of direction or inspiration as to how you want to make yours look. So you can even go ahead and actually one-up them and make sure you are the one to stand out. So I would advise that you go ahead and take a look at the top 12 gigs shown in your service niche, and then go ahead and actually take notes of the things that you like about them and perhaps even the things that you don't like about them, and basically just see it from the buyer's perspective. If you have a list of the key features that you know that you want to include in your thumbnail gig image, you can either get to work and create it yourself if you are confident in your graphic design ability. But if you happen to offer a service on Fiverr where you don't actually have any graphic design ability at all, it might be worthwhile actually reaching out to another Fiverr seller and have them do it for you and basically just make it look as professional as possible. But if you still would rather take it on yourself, which I totally understand, you can go ahead and use a free online editing software like Canva, where I'm sure you can create your thumbnail gig with only a few hours of practice under your belt. And again, for this piece of advice, I will quickly run through this and show you guys how I would personally create my thumbnail image for the logo design gig. And for those of you who don't have access to Photoshop or Illustrator, I will use Canva to create the thumbnail image and basically just show you guys what's possible. Okay, so I hope you guys were able to follow along to that time lapse and see how Canva can actually be used to create these thumbnail gig images. And if you were wondering, the logos that I used in that example were from a Fiverr challenge that I did a few months ago. But moving on to the next point, we're going to be diving into the profile. And the reason that I am mentioning this is because your profile picture, your description, and your experience information all has a big part to play when the customer actually views your gig. And especially for this video where we're trying to rank much higher and actually land our gig on the first page, you'll be surprised to know that our profile picture can actually boost and help our click-through rate. This is because your profile picture is displayed on your gig tile, which is instantly seen by the buyers of Fiverr who are scrolling down the page. So their first impressions of your gig and you as a seller needs to express professionalism and trust. If your profile does not display these things, there's a very high chance that the buyer will just scroll right past your gig. So to show an example of this, I've just searched up social media marketing here on Fiverr. This way we can switch it up and actually take a look at different niches. We can see that most of the sellers on this first page actually have professional looking headshots or very clean business logos. And this of course can help out massively. If a buyer comes along and scrolls down the page and comes across your thumbnail gig and your title and they really like it, next up they will look at your profile picture, and this is where it really can seal the deal. Because buyers are only scanning these gig tiles for a matter of seconds, you need to make sure that everything associated to your gigs, so your thumbnail, your profile picture and your title all stands out and appeals to the buyers immediately. But now that I've covered your profile picture, next up I'm going to talk a little bit about your profile description. And this is because your profile description or your About Me section is actually displayed on all of your gigs. And there's actually a very high chance that the buyers will read this to make sure that you have the experience and the professionalism that they're actually looking for. So making sure you have as much information about you and your skills as possible in this section may actually help your conversions. And of course, the higher your conversion rate is, Fiverr will then actually favour your gig and start to rank it much higher and hopefully land you on that first page. So to give you guys an example of something I would personally put in my description and add to my profile picture, I will go back to the logo design gig profile and run another time lapse. That way you guys can check it out. On to the next one, which is response time. And I'm sure you're aware that Fiverr gives sellers a rating out of 100% based on their response time, their completion rate and their delivery time. But as a seller who's been on Fiverr for well over a year now, I can honestly say that response time may just be as important as anything else that I've stated in this video. And I don't know if it's just me who's experienced this, but a couple months back I started to get quite lazy with Fiverr and was feeling fairly burnt out. So for a few weeks I would reply really slow and sometimes even late, and basically I put Fiverr on the back burner and only dealt with it when I actually had free time. And this of course affected my response rate, so where I was originally doing 1 to 2 hours response time, I was now all of a sudden doing 6 to 8 hours response time. And surprisingly, within a few weeks I started to notice the drop off of my orders where they had almost slashed by almost 50%. So I do truly believe that Fiverr uses these metrics and decides which sellers are going to be landing on that first page or rank higher based on how responsive they are and how professional they are. And of course in this example I fell off for a while and I obviously then paid the price for it. And to support this and show you guys an example of why I think this is so critical to be landing on the first page, I'm going to go ahead and switch it up again and show you guys a different niche and basically use this first page and open up the first few gigs and show you why. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and open up the first 4 gigs that are shown to me on this page. And by the way, I forgot to mention that this gig is for the web and mobile design niche. So here we go, let me just open up all 4 of them for you guys. While we wait for them to load, let's check out the first one. Okay, so let's scroll down. And here we have an average response time of 1 hour. Okay, scroll down again. And as we can see, this seller also has an average response time of 1 hour. Okay, scroll down for the third gig, and here this seller has an average response time of 2 hours, which still isn't bad. And lastly, we have an average response time of 1 hour again. So each of these gigs had an average response time of around 1 to 2 hours, so I think this clearly shows that Fiverr prefers those sellers who have a high response time. So there are a few different ways that you guys can boost your response time, and the first one will be to actually download the Fiverr app to your phone. This way you guys can receive notifications as soon as you receive messages from the buyers, and obviously when you're out and about you can obviously reply and respond a lot quicker. The other is to write up a quick response message. This way you guys can copy and paste it into the chat with your buyer if you don't actually have time to directly respond. And doing this, Fiverr will still acknowledge your quick response time, which will obviously in turn increase your response rating. Okay, so now we're going to be talking about gig pricing. Essentially, when a buyer comes along to Fiverr, they typically have a budget in mind as to how much they're looking to spend on their desired service. And if you happen to have a fairly high price label compared to everyone else in your service niche, there's a very good chance that the buyer's just going to scroll right past your gig. And the reason this is having an impact on your gig and why you're not actually landing on the first page is because your pricing may be affecting your click-through rate. Now, if we quickly take a look at flyer design, this way we can switch it up again and look at different examples. And if I go ahead and click on the seller details drop down box here and then click on the new seller tab and then click apply, What will happen is this will then show me all of the new sellers for the flyer design service, and this will then give me some sort of indication as to how much all of these new sellers for this service are starting to charge, all whilst trying to receive their first few orders. So the trick to understanding these prices and knowing how much you should actually charge within this service niche is to basically find the average price and actually the cheapest price. And the reason that I'm telling you guys that we need to find these two separate rates is because your gig prices will actually vary a lot in the early stages of your gig. So taking a look around here on the flyer design first page, I can see that the average price seems to be around £11.32, and the cheapest rate actually seems to be, where is it here, £3.77. Now what I would recommend to you is this: if you happen to be a new seller with less than 10 reviews, I would go ahead and actually change your rate to the cheapest rate that we just saw here for £3.77. This way your gig will appeal to a lot more buyers who don't mind taking a chance on a new seller, and they will more than likely be happy with the service for the price that they paid, which will almost guarantee you another 5-star review, which is what we want and what we need in order for our gig to start ranking higher. But if you happen to have over 10 to 20 reviews, I would actually recommend that you list your gig for the average price of £11.32. This way the buyers will see all of the reviews that you have and the slightly higher price, and then actually see your gig as a better quality option and better value for money. This of course works great for you in two different ways. Firstly, your gig will now look like it's worth more and appeal to better quality projects, and secondly, you actually get paid more. Now moving on to the last point, which is being active and staying online. So for this one, there isn't actually any evidence to show that this will boost your gig, but stay with me on this one, as this is something I've actually found to work and bring me more buyers for my own personal gigs. So from my own personal experience, whenever I open up my laptop and log into the Fiverr dashboard, it then actually displays a small green dot next to my profile picture, which actually tells the buyers of Fiverr that I'm online and active. And whether you believe me or not, whenever my profile and my gigs show me as being online with that green dot, I always seem to receive a lot more messages and orders from buyers. And the reason I think this boosts more clicks and engagement through my gigs is because the buyers can see that I'm actually online, so they know that I'm more likely going to respond quicker or can get onto their orders a lot quicker. So when the buyer is scrolling down the page and looking for the right service and you happen to be online, it definitely looks a lot more appealing. Now another thing about this point is that Fiverr may actually boost your gig and place it higher in the rankings if they know that you're online. And again, there isn't actually any evidence of this, but let's take a look on Fiverr and use another example. So here, if we take a look at book and ebook writing as another example, and we scroll down here and we look at the top gigs shown to us, we can see that almost half of the sellers are actually currently online. And what I find quite interesting about this is how Fiverr is currently pushing these 3 sellers who don't appear to have that many reviews. So it really does go to show that Fiverr probably does actually push those sellers who are online. So a piece of advice for this point is to simply leave your seller dashboard open and see if this actually helps with your engagement at all. So if you're just sitting around at home watching a film, or perhaps you're already doing work on the laptop, there's no harm in just opening up another tab and leaving the seller dashboard open. This way your profile will actually be shown as online and active. Okay, so I think I've covered everything in the most detail that I possibly can, so I hope you guys were able to take something away from this, even if it is just one of the points that I listed. And please let me know down below in the comments if you guys have any luck applying these tips and tricks to your gigs, and if you have any questions, I'll try to get back to you as quick as possible. And if you haven't done so already, please drop this video a like, as these videos really do take a lot of time to edit and film for you guys, and please subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this in the very near future. But yeah, that's all for now. I will see you guys in the next video, and take care.